Welcome to my channel. Enjoy this video and subscribe my channel. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning could be the last installment of Tom Cruise's long-running series, meaning many things must happen to make it a satisfying culmination. Since the ending of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, the 8th entry into the franchise has been highly anticipated. Originally billed as Dead Reckoning Part 2, the newly titled story of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning will see Ethan Hunt and his IMF team going up against the AI villain known only as the Entity in a race against time to defeat it. Much of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning's cast members were part of Dead Reckoning and will return for what is sure to be another epic installment in the action franchise. If the trailer for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is anything to go by, however, the film could be the end of the franchise altogether. From the titular use of the word final to the everything has led to this feeling of the film's marketing. Cruise's time as Ethan Hunt may be at an end. Some of the elements that hint at this reality from the trailer are as follows. Firstly, Henry Czerny's Eugene Kittredge can be heard saying, "Everything you were, everything you've done, has come to this." Shortly before this, Ving Rhames' voice is heard, with Luther Stickles saying that our lives are defined by the sum of our choices. Finally, the trailer ends with Ethan stating, "I need you to trust me," one last time, hinting that the end is nigh. If so, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning must deliver several elements. Number 5. Hunt's mysterious past with Gabriel needs to be shown. One of the more intriguing elements of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning was the relationship between Ethan Hunt and S.I. Morales' Gabriel. Gabriel was Mission Impossible 7's human villain, the main agent carrying out the Entity's will. Throughout the film, it is made clear that Hunt and Gabriel hate each other, stemming from an altercation they had before the former became an IMF agent. A brief hint at this flashback was provided, and with Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning's trailer teasing elements from the past coming to the fore, the film must reveal what happened on this fateful night. From the brief teases in MI7, it is clear that Gabriel harmed someone Ethan cared about. Mariela Garriga plays a woman named Marie in Dead Reckoning, and is reprising her role for The Final Reckoning. Thankfully, this likely means the film will detail exactly what happened between Ethan and Gabriel, who Marie is, and the mysteries of Ethan's pre-IMF life before the franchise ends. Number 4. The stories of Mission Impossible's central team need to be resolved. Besides concluding the story of Ethan Hunt, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning also needs to wrap up the stories of his longtime allies, Benji and Luther. Many are theorizing Luther will die in Mission Impossible 8, with Benji also potentially following suit. Either way, like the aforementioned point about Ethan's ending, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning needs to give each of these characters a good send-off one way or another, if the franchise is to meet a satisfying end. Number 3. Jeremy Renner's William Brandt should return. One of the more important supporting characters in any Mission Impossible movie is Jeremy Renner's William Brandt. Brandt was introduced in the 4th entry, and returned for the 5th, proving to be not only a compelling member of Ethan's IMF team, but someone who is tied to the personal story of Ethan and his ex-wife Julia in an emotionally resonant way. However, since Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation, Brandt has not been part of the franchise. As such, Renner and Brandt should return for The Final Reckoning. For one, this would simply make sense. The Entity has proven to be a big enough threat that many organizations in Mission Impossible's world want to see it destroyed or used against their enemies. It is likely Brandt would fall under the former category and could help Ethan and his team. Secondly, on a more personal level, it would simply be heartwarming to see Brandt back in action after Jeremy Renner's snowplow accident in 2023. Number 2. Mission Impossible 8's ties to the past need resolving. As mentioned, the trailer for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning provides many teases that this is the last installment in the franchise, but also that the past entries will tie into the story. Obviously, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning will connect intrinsically to the movie, yet the trailer shows shots from other movies, including Mission Impossible 3, for example. Ethan can be seen holding the rabbit's foot, begging the question of how his past adventures link to the Entity. Number 1. The future of the Mission Impossible franchise needs to be solidified. The final major thing that needs to happen in Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, if it is the last in the franchise, is establishing the concrete direction of the series going forward. This may seem like a contradiction, but it is clear that this iteration of the Mission Impossible franchise will end with Cruise's involvement. If Hunt does not go beyond the final reckoning, a new version of the franchise will be born that still marks the film as an ending of sorts. That said, a successor will need to be crowned. Since Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, this has been attempted by the various filmmakers involved in the series. Be it Renner's Brandt, Henry Cavill's August Walker, before his villain twist, Rebecca Ferguson's Ilsa Faust, or more recently Haley Atwell's Grace, there have been several candidates raised to replace Cruise's Hunt as the future of the franchise. If Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning ends the franchise via Cruise's retirement from it, the film must present a way forward or prove it to be an ending beyond all doubt.